God is merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love. Is God merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love? Mercy is a purposeful self-emptying to allow another to go in peace. Mercy is an intentional surrendering to better angels. Lord, have mercy is a cry, not a cry of fear, but of desperation. God is merciful. The world is not. God is slow to anger. The world is one knee-jerk after another, world without end. Amen. The divine is abounding, overflowing, teeming with steadfast love. The love the world offers has limits. It has a timetable and a deadline. It changes from headline to headline. Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy, because so few things have mercy. And we need mercy. To whom shall we go, if not you?
The wind blows hot against the mountainside, across the sea into my soul. It reaches into where I cannot hide, setting my feet upon the road. My heart is old, it holds my memories. My body burns a gem-like flame. Somewhere between the soul and soft machine is where I find myself again. Kyrie eleison, down the road that I must travel. Kyrie eleison, through the darkness of the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Kyrie eleison, on a highway in the night. When I was young, I thought of growing old, of what my life would mean to me. Would I have followed down my chosen road, or only wished what I could be? Kyrie eleison, down the road that I must travel. Kyrie eleison, through the darkness of the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Kyrie eleison, on a highway in the night. Whoa, 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 whoa. Kyrie eleison, down the road that I must travel. Kyrie eleison, through the darkness of the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Kyrie eleison, on a highway in the night. Kyrie eleison, down the road that I must travel. Kyrie eleison, through the darkness of the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Kyrie eleison, on a highway in the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Kyrie eleison, through a highway in the night. Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Kyrie eleison, on a highway in the light.
Well, I'm really glad that we're going to be hearing this story from a woman, Tracy Radosevic, a biblical storyteller who kind of mentored me into the world of biblical storytelling, because I think this is kind of a weird story for two guys to talk about.
Yeah.
And we want to name that. And from that space, what hits me, Tim, is that Jesus is not so beholden to the strictures of polite society. He doesn't care what you do to this woman. Pushes through, she grabs the hem of his cloak. She's thinking, if I could just touch him. And it's so inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And what hits me is that Jesus doesn't police your actions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what he's into.
I love the idea that she just touches him and all of a sudden healing occurs, because my big thing with mercy, and Kyrie is, Lord have mercy. My big thing with mercy is, if God is anything, God is mercy embodied. So it's not even like Jesus had to judge whether this person deserves mercy or not or anything like that. When it comes to the divine, mercy is not so much a decision on the divine's part, but a disposition the divine has towards humanity. And recalling that and reminding that, and it stands in stark opposition to the news headlines every day, coming out of Memphis right now, where we had not just a lack of mercy, but a lack of humanity,
a lack of compassion. Yeah,
I mean, what do you say? What do you say?
It's like Pastor Tuhina, the third part of our trilogy. She can't be with us, but she said in response to we're both dealing with deaths in our lives right now, and in response to the death of a friend of mine's husband, she said, there are no words and too many words simultaneously.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, a young man crying out for his mother.
Again, right?
Again.
Again.
From a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Escalating to brutality that is not... It's a brutality like Rodney King, except now it's in HD. And it's got like 15 different angles.
Yeah. And to me, because there might be a listener right now wondering what this has to do with the biblical reading that we're having today with the woman who reaches out for Jesus' coat. The fact that we can't connect the biblical stories that we hear on Sunday morning with the news headlines that we read on Monday morning is, to me, one of the hardest things to reconcile in the church right now, because that's one of the first things I thought of when I saw this coming out, was this story of somebody reaching out for mercy or needing mercy, and it being not only not available, but denied. And one of the things that gets me with this one is Jesus is exhausted, right? After this healing. And we all say, oh, well, the power was drained from him or something. I wonder if God is exhausted by just the sheer lack of compassion that we have. Like, maybe Jesus was exhausted because none of y'all would give her the time of day. You treated her like crap, and I had to be the one to show mercy, and that is exhausting. And we need to start making the connection between the pulpit and the headlines in ways that we are not, if we're ever actually going to enact these sort of metanoia things that we keep talking about, this turning around sort of things that we keep talking about in the world. Because otherwise, we just listen to a nice story on Sunday morning and go about our Monday mornings. And frankly, you know what exhausts me? That.
I mean, otherwise, it's this Elks Lodge with communion that we go to. And if we don't speak Tyre Nichols' name, or at least be able to say, what happened to him? I mean, he was crying out. He was crying out for mercy. Kyrie eleison, he would have said in Jesus' day.
If when we cry, Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy, it's almost like reminding God who God is, too, right? It's not just we need relief. It's also, hey, remember who you are.
Yeah.
And And that in turn should remind us who we're supposed to be if we're supposed to be embodying God in this world.
It's Moses after he smashes the first tablets and God's like, I'm done with this people.
Right.
And Moses is like, yeah, remember who you are?
Remember who you are.
It's like, it's the flip, right, of Mufasa and Simba, right? It's Simba reminding Mufasa.
Yeah.
Remember who you are.
And
right.
Remember who you are. If anything, when you do the Kyrie in worship, don't abstract it from the headlines of tomorrow.
Now, there came through this crowd a man. He was one of the rulers of the synagogue. His name was Jairus. And when he got to Jesus, he fell on the ground before him and began to beg over and over again.
Blood pressure is dropping fast. He's going into cardiac arrest.
My little girl.
What did she do? What did she have?
My little girl.
He had a promising future.
Is at the point of death. Please come, lay your hands upon her so that she may be made well and live. So he followed the man, as did the large crowd of people who pressed in and thronged from all sides. Now, in this crowd, there was a woman who had suffered from a hemorrhage of blood for 12 years. She had been to many doctors, had spent everything she had, but she hadn't gotten any better. In fact, she'd actually grown worse. But she had heard the stories about Jesus. And so she came up behind him in the crowd, and she touched his garment because she said, if I touch even his garment, I will be made well. And immediately her hemorrhage ceased, and she felt within herself that she had been healed of her disease. Well, Jesus, sensing that power had gone forth from him, turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched me? And his disciples said to him,
You serious?
Teacher, you see this crowd of people pressing in on all sides. How can you ask who touched you? But Jesus looked to see who had done it. Well, the woman, knowing what had been done to her, came in fear and trembling, and falling on the ground before him, she told him the whole truth. And Jesus said to her, oh, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. But while he was still speaking, there came some from the house of the ruler of the synagogue who said, your daughter...
She just wasn't able to get here in time.
is dead.
And I guess that's it.
Why bother the teacher any further? But Jesus said to Jairus, do not be afraid. Only believe. Well, this time, he took no one with him. Well, when they got to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, they were met by a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And going into the house, Jesus said to them, why are you weeping and causing this fuss? The child isn't dead. She's merely sleeping. Well, when they heard this, they laughed at him. So Jesus kicked them out. And taking the father and the mother of the child, they went into the room where the little girl lay. And taking her by the hand, Jesus said to her, Talitha cum. Which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. And immediately she got up and started to walk around. Because you see, she was 12 years old. Well, everyone was overcome with amazement. And Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone about this. Really? And to give her something to eat.
the blue skies go. Poison is the wind that blows from the north and south and east. Whoa, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. No, no. Oil wasted on the oceans and upon our seas. Fish full of mercury. Oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. No, no. Radiation underground and in the sky. Animals and birds who live nearby are dying. Oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. What about this overcrowded land? How much more will you from me? Can't you stand?
Today's worship is brought to you by the Anam Cara community, one of the constellation of offerings by this new digital mission start of the North Carolina Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, visit anamcaracommunity.org. And if you trust that this work and content are meaningful for you, please give on our website under the Give tab. We know God blesses us in beautiful and precarious times. Thank you for being you. And thank you for being here.